The stars burned cold and distant in the darkness of space as two massive alien fleets faced each other across the void. Between them lay the wreckage of countless battles, twisted metal and crystalline fragments that had once been proud warships. The war between the Kethver Imperium and the Zephyrian Coalition had raged for 17 long years, and neither side showed any sign of giving up. Admiral Vexter stood in the command center of his flagship, the Eternal Resonance. His crystalline body caught the light from the tactical displays and scattered it in rainbow patterns across the dark walls. The Kethver were beings made of living crystal, their thoughts traveling through their bodies like music through a perfect instrument. Right now, the Admiral's thoughts were filled with frustration and anger. "Report," he commanded, his voice creating a harmonic tone that made the bridge crew shiver with recognition. "Commander." Heltok approached with data tablets in his forearms. Like all Kethver, he was tall and thin, his transparent body showing the complex network of energy that served as their nervous system. "The battle for Sector 7 is complete, Admiral. We have taken 3 mining stations, but the cost was heavy. 47 ships destroyed, 12 more badly damaged." Vexler's internal light dimmed with disappointment. 47 ships for 3 small mining stations. The Zephyrians had fought for every meter of space, just as they always did. Just as they had been doing for 17 years. And our losses? The Admiral asked, though he already knew the answer would be painful. 8,000 crew members, sir. The Zephyrians used their new plasma weapons. Our shields held, but barely. The Admiral turned to stare out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Zephyrian fleet was licking its wounds just as his own forces were. Both sides had started this war with grand fleets of thousands of ships. Now they were down to hundreds, and still the fighting continued. The war had begun over something. So simple it seemed foolish now. Mining rights in the Outer Rim territories. The Kethver had claimed the systems first, but the Zephyrians argued that their people had been there centuries before. What should have been a diplomatic disagreement had turned into skirmishes, then battles, then full-scale war. Now, 17 years later, nobody really remembered what they were fighting for anymore. The war had become its own reason for existing. On the other side of the battlefield, Commander Xylith paced the bridge of her flagship, the Swarm's Fury. The Zephyrians were very different from their crystal enemies. They looked like giant insects, with 6 legs, 4 arms, and compound eyes that could see in all directions at once. Their exoskeletons were tough as armor, and their minds worked like computers, processing information at incredible speeds, but even with all their advantages, they could not break the Kethver defenses. "Status report?" Xylith clicked in the rapid language of her people. Her mandibles moved quickly as she spoke, and her antenna twitched with impatience. Sub-Commander Tickvolume scuttled forward on his 6 legs. His green exoskeleton was scarred from many battles, and one of his compound eyes had been replaced with a mechanical device. "We have successfully defended all stations in Sector 7, Commander. The Kethver advance has been stopped." "At what cost?" Xylith demanded. 31 ships lost, 18 damaged. 6,000 warriors dead. Xylith's antenna drooped. Another battle, another victory that felt like defeat. They had stopped the Kethver advance, but they had paid a terrible price for it. And tomorrow, or next week, or next month, they would fight the same battle all over again. The Zephyrian commander walked to the great window that looked out into space. She could see the lights of the Kethver fleet in the distance, probably planning their next attack. How many times had she stood here looking at those same lights, wondering when this war would end? Her people were growing tired. The homeworlds were struggling to build new ships fast enough to replace the ones lost in battle. Entire generations had grown up knowing nothing but war. Children who had been born when the fighting started were now adult warriors themselves, and still the war went on. Both fleets had evolved during the long conflict. When the Kethver developed new shield technology, the Zephyrians created better weapons to pierce them. When the Zephyrians built faster ships, the Kethver made theirs more maneuverable. It was like a deadly dance where both partners moved in perfect time with each other. The result was a stalemate that seemed to have no end. In the medical bays of both fleets, doctors worked to save the wounded from the latest battle. HFY healers used harmonic frequencies to repair damaged crystal bodies, while Zephyrian medics injected healing chemicals into injured exoskeletons. The techniques were different, but the pain was the same. Young HFY warriors lay on crystalline beds, their internal light flickering weakly as they recovered from plasma burns. Some would never fight again. Others would return to battle within days, driven by duty and the endless demands of war. In the Zephyrian medical decks, injured warriors clicked softly to themselves as doctors worked to repair their damaged shells. Some had lost limbs that would take weeks to regrow. Others carried scars that would mark them for the rest of their lives. The war had changed both species in ways that went beyond technology. The HFY, once a peaceful people who solved problems through harmony and cooperation, had become hardened fighters. Their crystal bodies now carried weapons that could cut through solid metal, and their harmonic voices could shatter enemy equipment. The Zephyrians had changed too. Before the war, they had been explorers and builders, using their incredible speed and coordination to create amazing cities and discover new worlds. Now they were soldiers, their quick minds focused on tactics and strategy, instead of art and science. Both sides had lost more than ships and warriors. They had lost parts of themselves. Admiral Vexler reviewed the tactical reports on his personal display. The numbers told the same story they had been telling for years. Neither side was winning, neither side was losing. They were locked in. A struggle that consumed everything but decided nothing. His staff officers moved quietly around the bridge, their crystal bodies humming with subdued harmonics. They were tired too. Everyone was tired. Commander Xylith studied her own reports and came to the same conclusion. The war was eating both civilizations alive, but neither side knew how to stop it. To surrender would mean the destruction of everything they had fought for. To continue meant the slow death of both species. Somewhere in the darkness between the two fleets, pieces of destroyed ships drifted in the void. HFY crystal fragments mixed with twisted Zephyrian metal, creating a graveyard that stretched for thousands of kilometers. It was a monument to the futility of the war, but neither side could see it for what it really was. The war had become bigger than the people who fought it. It had its own momentum, its own life, its own cruel logic. Every battle created new reasons to fight the next battle. Every loss demanded revenge. Every victory required defense. As the two fleets prepared for another engagement, neither side realized that their war was about to encounter something that would change everything. In a distant part of the galaxy, on a small blue planet orbiting, a yellow star, a species that had never heard of HFY or Zephyrians, was about to make its first journey beyond its own solar system. The humans were coming, and nothing would ever be the same. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Discovery, watching the stars stream past on the main screen. This was humanity's first real journey beyond the solar system, and every moment felt like history in the making. The Discovery was not a large ship by the standards Jake had read about in science fiction books, but it was the most advanced vessel Earth had ever built. "Status report, Amy," Jake said to his sensor officer. Lieutenant Amy Carter looked up from her console, her brown hair tied back in a regulation ponytail. She had been monitoring space around them for 3 days now, and everything had been quiet. Too quiet, maybe. "All systems normal, Captain. We are now 12 light years from Earth, approaching the edge of unexplored space. No contacts on any?" "Sensors." Jake nodded and turned to check on the rest of his small crew. The Discovery only had 15 people aboard, but they were the best Earth had to offer. Scientists, engineers, and military officers all working together to take humanity's first steps into the galaxy. Dr. Lisa Wang sat at her linguistics station, running practice programs on her translation computers. She was Earth's leading expert in communication theory, and her job was to figure out how to talk to aliens if they ever met any. So far, her computers had been running simulations based on theoretical alien languages, but she hoped someday to test them on the real thing. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake managed the ship's weapons and defense systems, The Discovery was built for exploration, not war, but Earth's leaders had insisted on some basic protection. Ryan's weapons were simple compared to what the military used on Earth, but they should be enough to handle small threats. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and life support systems. Jake was about to order a course change when Amy suddenly sat up straight at her station. "Captain, I'm getting something strange on long-range sensors." Jake moved to look over her shoulder. "What kind of strange?" "Energy signatures. Lots of them. I count at least 200 separate contacts, all showing massive power readings." The captain felt his heart rate increase. 200 contacts meant they had found something big. Maybe a space station or a mining operation or something else entirely. Distance? Approximately 4 hours at current speed. The signatures are unlike anything in our database. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. This was the moment they had all been waiting for, but now that it was here, he felt nervous. First contact with alien life was supposed to be handled by diplomats and scientists, not a small exploration ship with minimal weapons. All right, people. This is what we trained for. Amy, keep monitoring those contacts. Lisa, start warming up your translation programs. Ryan, bring weapons to standby but do not power them yet. I don't want to look threatening. The next 4 hours passed slowly. As the Discovery got closer to the unknown contacts, the sensor readings became more detailed and more frightening. The contacts were not space stations or mining operations. They were ships. Hundreds of ships arranged in what looked like battle formations. "Captain," Amy reported, "I'm reading 2 distinct groups of vessels. They appear to be facing each other across approximately 50,000 kilometers of space." "Are they fighting?" Jake asked. "Not currently, sir. But their formations suggest they are preparing for battle." Jake stared at the tactical display. 2 fleets of alien ships ready to fight each other, and his tiny human vessel was heading straight toward them. "Options?" he asked his crew. Ryan spoke first. "We could change course and avoid them entirely." "That would be the safe choice," Dr. Wang added. "But we might never get another chance like this. First contact with not just one alien species, but apparently 2. Jake made his decision. "We continue on course, but slowly. Amy, start transmitting on all frequencies. Basic mathematical sequences, prime numbers, anything that shows intelligence." "What message do we send?" Lisa asked. "Tell them we are peaceful. Explorers from Earth, we mean no harm and want to establish communication." As the Discovery continued toward the alien fleets, both sides detected the small human ship. On the bridge of the Eternal Resonance, Admiral Vexter studied the sensor readings with confusion. "Commander Heltok, what do you make of this new contact?" The Kethver officer's crystal body flickered with uncertain light patterns. "It is very small, Admiral. Much smaller than any ship in our databases. The technology appears primitive, but it is clearly artificial. Could it be a Zephyrian scout ship?" "Negative, sir. The energy signature is completely unknown. It matches neither Kethver nor Zephyrian technology." At the same time, Commander Xylith was having a similar conversation on her own bridge. The Zephyrian sensors showed the same small contact approaching both fleets. Subcommander Tick Volume. Analysis of the unknown vessel. "It appears to be a single ship, Commander. Very small, very primitive. It is transmitting on multiple frequencies, but the signals are unlike anything we have seen before. A new species?" "That seems most likely, Commander." Both alien commanders faced the same problem. After 17 years of war, they were suspicious of anything new. The small ship could be a weapon, a spy, or something else entirely. Both sides decided to investigate. The Discovery suddenly found itself surrounded by alien ships. Massive crystalline vessels appeared on one side, while insect-like ships with organic curves closed in from the other direction. Jake and his crew watched in amazement and terror as their small ship was dwarfed by the alien giants. "Captain," Amy reported, "we are being scanned by both fleets. Multiple targeting locks detected. Any hostile actions?" "Not yet, sir, but we are definitely their focus of attention." Lisa worked frantically at her station as alien transmissions flooded the Discovery's communication systems. Captain, I'm receiving signals from both fleets. The languages are completely different from each other and from anything in our databases. Can you establish communication? I'm trying, sir. The computer is analyzing the signal patterns now. Jake opened a channel to both alien fleets. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Discovery. We are peaceful explorers from the planet Earth. We mean no harm to anyone and wish to establish friendly contact. The message was transmitted on multiple frequencies and repeated in several human languages. Jake hoped that the aliens would understand the peaceful intent even if they could not understand the words. The response was immediate. Both fleets began moving ships closer to the Discovery. Jake watched as vessels larger than Earth's biggest cities positioned themselves around his tiny ship. Captain, Ryan reported, I count 12 ships from each fleet now surrounding us. No weapons charged, but they are definitely prepared for action. Lisa, any progress on translation? I'm getting somewhere, Captain. Both alien languages use mathematical concepts that I can work with. Give me another hour and I might have basic communication. But they did not have an hour. A new transmission came through, this one directed specifically at the Discovery. The signal was different from the others, more focused and deliberate. Captain, Lisa said excitedly, this transmission is using our own mathematical sequences. They took our signal and modified it. This is definitely an attempt at communication. Can you respond? I think so. The pattern suggests they want to know who we are and where we come from. Jake made another decision that would change the course of galactic history. Tell them the truth. We are humans from Earth. We are new to space travel and have never encountered other intelligent species before. We want to learn and to establish peaceful relations. Lisa transmitted the message using the mathematical patterns the aliens had established. The response came back within minutes from both fleets. Captain, Lisa said, reading her displays, both fleets are requesting that we come aboard their ships. They want to meet us in person. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was scared but excited. They had achieved first contact with alien life, not just one species, but two. The problem was that the two species appeared to be enemies. Options? Jake asked. We could visit both fleets, Ryan suggested. Split the crew between them. That might work, Lisa agreed. It would show that we are not taking sides in whatever conflict they have, Jake nodded. It was risky, but everything about this mission was risky. Very well. Ryan, you will take a team to one fleet. Lisa, you will go to the other. I will remain here with the Discovery as a neutral contact point. Which fleet should we visit first? Ryan asked. Jake looked at the tactical display showing the two alien fleets. We visit both at the same time. This is first contact, people. Let's make sure we do it right. As the human crew prepared to meet the aliens, neither the HFY nor the Zephyrians realized that their 17-year war was about to encounter something that would change everything. The small ship from Earth carried with it ideas and perspectives that neither warrior species had considered. The humans were about to discover that sometimes the most important battles are not fought with weapons, but with words and ideas, and sometimes the best way to end a war is to help both sides remember what they were fighting for in the first place. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake stepped through the airlock onto the HFY flagship and immediately felt like he had entered a crystal palace. Everything around him seemed to be made of living glass that pulsed with soft, colored light. The walls, the floor, even the air itself seemed to shimmer with energy. Admiral Vexler waited for him in what Ryan assumed was the main corridor. The alien was tall and thin, his transparent body catching light from everywhere and throwing it back in rainbow patterns. When he spoke, his voice created musical tones that made Ryan's bones vibrate. Welcome aboard the Eternal Resonance, Human Ryan Blake, the Admiral said through a translation device that had been quickly programmed with basic English. I am Admiral Vexler, commander of this fleet. Ryan had practiced this moment during the trip from Earth, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality of talking to a being made of living crystal. Thank you for having me aboard, Admiral. I represent the human species and the planet Earth. The Admiral's body flickered with what Ryan hoped was curiosity rather than annoyance. Your species is unknown to us. How long have you been traveling? Between the stars? This is actually our first journey beyond our own solar system, Ryan admitted. We are very new to space travel. If Admiral Vexler was surprised by this revelation, his crystal features did not show it. Instead, he led Ryan through corridors that hummed with harmonic frequencies. Other HFY crew members stopped their work to stare at the human visitor. Their transparent bodies glowed with different colors, which Ryan guessed might indicate different emotions. They arrived at what appeared to be a strategy room. The walls were covered with tactical displays showing star maps, fleet positions, and battle reports. Ryan recognized some of the information from his own ship's sensors, but much of it was beyond human understanding. We have been at war with the Zephyrians for 17 of your Earth years, Admiral Vexler explained. Perhaps your species has encountered them as well? No, we have never met any alien species before today, Ryan said. In fact, we did not know that intelligent life existed anywhere else in the galaxy. This statement caused several HFY officers to gather around Ryan. Their crystal bodies chimed with what sounded like excited conversation, though the translation device could not keep up with their rapid harmonic speech. You know nothing of the Great War? One of the officers asked. Nothing at all, Ryan confirmed. We detected your fleets by accident and came to investigate. We had no idea we would find two civilizations in conflict. Admiral Vexler's internal light dimmed. Thoughtfully, then you have no alliance with the Zephyrians? You are not here to assist them? We have no alliances with anyone, Ryan said firmly. We are explorers, not warriors. Our mission is to learn about the galaxy and establish peaceful contact with other intelligent species. The HFY officers exchanged harmonic communications that the translation device rendered as confused buzzing. Finally, Admiral Vexler spoke again. Your species has fought wars, has it not? Your ship carries weapons? Ryan nodded. Yes, humans have fought many wars throughout our history, but we have also learned to make peace. Our weapons are only for defense. Tell us about human warfare, the Admiral requested. How do you fight your battles? For the next several hours, Ryan found himself describing human military history to an audience of fascinated crystal beings. He talked about ancient battles fought with swords and shields, naval warfare on Earth's oceans, aerial combat in the skies, and modern conflicts fought with advanced technology. The HFY were particularly interested in concepts that were completely foreign to their own military thinking. Guerrilla warfare, where small groups could defeat larger armies through hit-and-run tactics. Psychological operations, where the battle was fought in the minds of the enemy rather than on a physical battlefield. Strategic deception, where victory came through making the enemy believe something that was not true. Your species has survived thousands of years of warfare on a single planet, Admiral Vexler observed. Yet you still exist and have grown strong enough to travel to the stars? How is this possible? Ryan thought carefully before answering. We learned that the goal of war should be to create lasting peace, not just to defeat an enemy. Sometimes, the best victory is the one that turns your enemy into your friend. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, Dr. Lisa Wang was having her own fascinating conversations aboard the Zephyrian flagship. The swarm's fury, the insect-like aliens, were very different from the crystalline HFY, but they were equally curious about the strange new species that had appeared in their war zone. Commander Xylith led Lisa through corridors that looked like the inside of a giant hive. The walls were covered with a material that felt organic, and the air hummed with the sound of thousands of Zephyrian crew members working throughout the ship. Your species is very small, Commander Xylith observed, her compound eyes studying Lisa from multiple angles at once. How do you survive with such limited physical capabilities? Lisa smiled. We make up for our physical limitations with our minds. Humans are very good at solving problems in unexpected ways. The Zephyrian commander's antennae twitched with what Lisa hoped was interest. Show me what you mean. Lisa found herself in a situation very similar to Ryan's experience with the Kethver. The Zephyrians wanted to understand human warfare and strategy. But their questions focused on different aspects of human military thinking. Where the Kethver had been interested in unconventional tactics, the Zephyrians were fascinated by human logistics and organization. How did humans coordinate large military operations? How did they supply armies across vast distances? How did they maintain morale during long campaigns? Your species has fought wars that lasted years, Commander Xylith noted. How do you prevent your people from losing the will to fight? That is one of the most important questions in warfare, Lisa replied. Sometimes the side that wins is not the one with the best weapons or the most soldiers. Sometimes it is the side that better understands what they are fighting for. The Zephyrian officers clicked among themselves in rapid conversation. Lisa's translation device was working better now, and she could understand some of their discussion. The human speaks of purpose in warfare, one officer was saying. Do we still remember our purpose? We fight because the Kethver are enemies, another replied. That has always been reason enough. But why are they our enemies? A third voice asked. What did we hope to gain when this war began? Lisa realized she was witnessing something important. The Zephyrians, like their crystalline enemies, had become so focused on fighting the war that they had forgotten why the war had started in the first place. Commander Xylith, Lisa said carefully, may I ask what your people and the Kethver were fighting about originally? The commander's compound eyes seemed to dim as she thought about the question. Mining rights, she said finally. Control of certain systems in the Outer Rim territories. And after 17 years of war, do you still control those systems? Some of them. Others are controlled by the Kethver. Many have been destroyed by the fighting, Lisa nodded thoughtfully. So the thing you were fighting over no longer exists? The question caused uncomfortable silence throughout the Zephyrian command center. Lisa could see the alien officers looking at each other, their antennae twitching with what she was beginning to recognize as confusion and uncertainty. Back on the Discovery, Captain Jake Morrison was monitoring communications from both away teams. He could hear the conversations Ryan and Lisa were having with their alien hosts, and he was beginning to understand something that neither alien species seemed to realize. Both the Kethver and the Zephyrians were trapped in a war that had lost its meaning. They continued to fight because fighting was all they knew how to do anymore. But neither side seemed to have a clear idea of what victory would actually look like. Jake opened a communication channel to both of his crew members. Ryan, Lisa, I want you to ask your hosts a simple question. What would have to happen for this war to end? Over the next hour, both away teams posed this question to their alien hosts. The responses were remarkably similar. Despite coming from two completely different species, the Kethver officers looked at each other with their crystal bodies flickering in patterns of confusion. They had been fighting for so long that the idea of not fighting seemed impossible to imagine. The Zephyrian commanders clicked among themselves in agitated discussion. They had organized their entire society around the war effort. What would they do if there was no war to fight? Both species had become so focused on the process of warfare that they had lost sight of its purpose. They were fighting to fight. Not fighting to win, Ryan reported back to Captain Morrison from the Kethver flagship. Captain, I do not think these people remember how to stop fighting. The war has become bigger than the reasons it started. Lisa's report from the Zephyrian ship was equally troubling. Captain, both sides seem to be afraid of peace. They have built their entire civilizations around this conflict. Without the war, they do not know who they are. Jake Morrison stared out at the two alien fleets positioning for another battle. Somewhere in those massive ships were millions of beings who had known nothing but war for most of their lives. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the Discovery, staring at the tactical display that showed two massive alien fleets preparing for another battle. His crew members, Ryan and Lisa, had been aboard the alien ships for 3 days now, and their reports painted a clear picture of the problem. Both alien civilizations were trapped in a war they no longer understood. They fought because fighting was all they knew how to do. But neither side could explain what victory would actually mean anymore. Jake had an idea that was so simple it seemed crazy. But sometimes the simplest ideas were the best ones. Me, he called to his sensor officer. Open a channel to both fleets, all frequencies, maximum power. Lieutenant Amy Carter looked surprised. Sir, that will definitely get their attention. Both sides will hear everything we say. That is exactly what I want, Jake replied with a small smile. The communication channel opened, and Jake could see on his displays that both alien fleets were receiving his transmission. He took a deep breath and began to speak. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Discovery. I am speaking to both Admiral Vexler of the Kethver Imperium and Commander Zelith of the Zephyrian Coalition. I have a proposal that I believe will interest both of you. The response was immediate. Both alien commanders tried to speak at the same time, their voices overlapping in Jake's speakers. He held up his hand even though they could not see him. Please, let me finish. I am proposing a meeting between representatives of both fleets. Not aboard either of your ships, but here aboard the Discovery, neutral ground. The communication channel exploded with angry voices from both sides. The idea of meeting with their enemies was unthinkable to both alien civilizations. Jake waited for the noise to die down before continuing. I understand your concerns, but consider this. You have been fighting each other for 17 years. In all that time, have either of you gained anything worth the cost of this war? Silence fell over the communication channel. Jake could imagine. Both alien commanders thinking about his question. Admiral Vexler was the first to respond. Human Morrison, the Zephyrians are our enemies. We do not negotiate with enemies. And the Kethver are destroyers of peace, Commander Zelith added. They cannot be trusted. Jake nodded as if he had expected these responses. Admiral, Commander, with respect, I think you are both wrong. You are not each other's enemies anymore. You are both enemies of this war. Explain, both alien commanders said at almost the same time. Jake leaned forward in his chair. The war is hurting both of your civilizations. Your people are dying, your resources are being wasted, and your children are growing up knowing nothing but conflict. The real enemy is not each other. The real enemy is the war itself. Dr. Lisa Wang's voice came over the internal communication system from the Zephyrian ship. Captain, Commander Xylith wants to know what you mean by that. Ryan's voice followed from the Kethver flagship. Admiral Vexler is asking the same question, sir, Jake smiled. At least both sides were curious about the same thing. That was a start. The war has become like a living thing, Jake explained. It feeds on your anger, your fear, and your pride. Every battle makes the next battle necessary. Every loss demands revenge. Every victory requires defense. The war does not want to end because ending would mean its death. The communication channel was quiet for a long moment. Jake could imagine both alien commanders discussing his words with their officers. Finally, Admiral Vexler spoke. Even if what you say is true, Human Morrison, how does one fight against a war? By remembering what peace looks like, Jake replied. By asking not how to defeat your enemy, but how to make your enemy unnecessary. Commander Xylith's voice joined the conversation. You speak in riddles, human. Be specific. Jake had been hoping for this question. Very well. I propose that 3 representatives from each fleet meet aboard the Discovery in 2 hours. Not to negotiate surrender or victory, but to answer one simple question. What would both of your civilizations gain if this war ended today? The alien commanders began speaking at the same time again, but Jake interrupted them. Before you refuse, consider this. What do you have to lose? If the meeting fails, you can go back to fighting each other. If it succeeds, both of your civilizations might have a future beyond this war. Admiral Vexler was quiet for a moment before responding. What guarantee do we have that this is not a trap? The only guarantee I can give you is that I have no interest in helping either side defeat the other, Jake said honestly. My people gain nothing from your war and everything from your peace. Commander Xylith asked the next logical question. Why should we trust a species we have just met? Jake had an answer ready for that one, too. Because we are the only ones in this situation who do not have a reason to lie to you. We have no history with either of your civilizations. We have no ancient grudges or old wounds. We can see your situation clearly because we are not part of it. The communication channel fell silent again. Jake waited, knowing that both alien commanders were probably having intense discussions with their senior officers. After 10 minutes that felt like hours, Admiral Vexler spoke first. The HFY Imperium will send 3 representatives to your vessel, Human Morrison. But we will come armed and ready for treachery. Commander Xylith's response came immediately after. The Zephyrian Coalition will also send 3 representatives. We too will be prepared for deception. Jake felt relief wash over him. Thank you both. But I must ask that your representatives come unarmed? The Discovery is a small ship, and weapons would make everyone nervous. Unacceptable, both commanders said at the same time. Jake had expected this response. Then I propose a compromise. Each representative may bring a personal protection device, but no weapons capable of damaging the ship or harming multiple people. After more discussion, both sides agreed to these terms. Jake gave them precise docking instructions and told them where to meet aboard the Discovery. As the communication ended, Amy looked at her captain with concern. Sir, are you sure about this? We are talking about bringing mortal enemies together. In a confined space, Jake nodded. It is risky, but it is also necessary. Sometimes you have to take big risks to achieve important goals. Over the next 2 hours, the Discovery prepared for the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. The ship's small conference room was rearranged to accommodate 6 alien representatives and 3 humans. Dr. Wang returned from the Zephyrian ship to help with translation, while Ryan came back from the HFY flagship with detailed notes about their culture and customs. The first shuttle to arrive carried the HFY representatives. Admiral Vexler came personally, along with 2 of his senior officers. Their crystal bodies seemed to pulse with nervous energy as they boarded. The human ship, the Zephyrian shuttle, arrived minutes later. Commander Xylith led her delegation, accompanied by 2 of her tactical advisors. Their insect-like features were rigid with tension as they entered the Discovery. The 2 groups of aliens had not been in the same room for 17 years. The last time HFY and Zephyrian representatives had met face-to-face, it had been to declare war. Jake stood in the conference room as both delegations entered from opposite doors. The tension was so thick it could be cut with a knife. The HFY representatives took seats on one side of the table, their crystal bodies glowing with restrained hostility. The Zephyrian delegates sat across from them, their compound eyes watching every movement their enemies made. Welcome aboard the Discovery, Jake said calmly. I know this is difficult for all of you, but I believe this meeting could change the future for both of your civilizations. Admiral Vexler's harmonic voice was cold as ice. State your purpose. Human Morrison. Why have you brought us together with these insects? Commander Xylith's mandibles clicked angrily. We could ask why you have brought us together with these crystal parasites. Jake held up his hand before the insults could continue. This is exactly why we are here. You have been calling each other names for so long that you have forgotten. You are both intelligent species with hopes, dreams, and families. Dr. Wang activated her translation computers and made sure both sides could understand everything being said. Ryan took notes on his tablet, documenting every word of this historic meeting. Jake looked around the table at the 6 alien representatives. I want to start with a simple question. Admiral Vexler, what would the HFY Imperium do if this war ended tomorrow? The crystal being's internal light flickered with confusion. What do you mean? I mean, what would your people do with their time, their resources, their energy if they were not fighting the Zephyrians? Admiral Vexler looked at his fellow officers, then back at Jake. We would rebuild our damaged worlds. We would explore new star systems. We would create new art and music. Jake nodded and turned to the other side of the table. Commander Xylith, same question. What would the Zephyrian coalition do if the war ended? The insect commander's antennae twitched as she considered the question. We would expand our colonies. We would develop new technologies. We would raise our children in peace instead of preparing them for war, Jake smiled. Both of those sound like worthy goals. So why do you continue fighting instead of pursuing them? The conference room aboard the Discovery was silent as Jake Morrison waited for an answer to his question. 6 alien representatives sat around the small table, staring at each other across 17 years of hatred and mistrust. For the first time in almost 2 decades, they were being forced to think about why they were still fighting. Admiral Vexler was the first to speak. His crystal body flickered with uncertain light patterns as he searched for words. We fight. BECAUSE because they are enemies. Commander Xylith's compound eyes focused on the Kethver admiral. And you are enemies because you attacked our mining colonies. We defended our rightful territory, Admiral Vexler replied, his harmonic voice rising with anger. Territory that belonged to us first, Commander Xylith shot back. Jake held up his hand before the argument could escalate. Stop, both of you. Please listen to what you just said. Admiral, you fight them because they are your enemies. Commander, they are your enemies because they fought you. Do you see the problem with this logic? Dr. Lisa Wang leaned forward from her position at the translation console. Captain Morrison is pointing out that your reasons for fighting have become circular. You fight because you have always fought. Ryan Blake, taking notes at the end of the table, added quietly, in human history we call this a blood feud. It is a cycle of violence that continues long after everyone has forgotten what started it. The alien representatives looked uncomfortable. One of the Zephyrian officers, a scarred veteran named Sub-Commander Kreiktal, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. The mining colonies. I had forgotten about the mining colonies. As had I, admitted Commander Heltok from the Kethver delegation. The war has become about so much more than mining rights. Jake saw his opportunity. Exactly. The war has grown beyond its original cause. But what if we could find a way to give both of your civilizations something more valuable than those original mining colonies? Admiral Vexler's internal light dimmed with suspicion. What do you mean, Human Morrison? Jake stood up and activated the conference room's main display screen. Amy had been working with the ship's computers to analyze all the sensor data they had collected since arriving in this sector of space. Your fleets have been fighting in this region for years, Jake began, but you have been so focused on each other that you have missed something important. The display showed a 3-dimensional map of the local star systems. Jake pointed to several areas marked with unusual energy signatures. Our sensors have detected artificial structures in at least 12 systems within 50 light-years of... Here, the energy signatures do not match either Kethver or Zephyrian technology. Commander Xylith leaned forward, her antennae twitching with interest. You are suggesting there is a third species in this region? Not a third species, Jake replied. An ancient species. These structures appear to be thousands of years old, far more advanced than anything either of your civilizations has developed. The aliens around the table exchanged glances. Ancient alien technology was the stuff of legends in both their cultures. Ryan picked up the explanation. The energy readings suggest these are not just ruins. Some of the structures appear to be active, possibly automated systems left behind by whoever built them. Dr. Wang added her analysis. Based on the mathematical patterns in the energy signatures, the technology level is far beyond anything in our databases. We are talking about scientific advances that could benefit both of your civilizations for centuries. Jake sat back down and looked around the table. Imagine what your people could accomplish if they worked together to explore and understand this ancient technology. Imagine the medical advances, the energy sources, the transportation methods you might discover. Admiral Vexler's crystal? Body began to glow brighter. You are proposing an alliance between our species? I am proposing that you stop wasting your resources fighting each other and start using them to explore the greatest discovery in galactic history, Jake replied, Commander. Xylith was quiet for a long moment, her compound eyes studying the display. The technology would have to be shared equally between our civilizations. Of course, Jake agreed. And any discoveries would benefit both species, Sub-Commander Kryptal spoke up. But how do we know we can trust the Kethver? They have been our enemies for so long. Commander Heltok answered before any human could respond. How do we know we can trust the Zephyrians? The question works both ways, Jake smiled. That is exactly right. Trust has to be built, not given. But you can start building it by working together on something that benefits both sides. Dr. Wang pulled up additional data on her console. We have identified 3 ancient sites that appear to be the most accessible. Joint exploration teams could begin investigating them within days. Ryan added the tactical perspective. Your fleets are perfectly positioned to secure and explore these sites. The Kethver ships are better suited for some types of investigation, while Zephyrian vessels have advantages for others. Jake looked around the table at the alien representatives. I am not asking you to become friends overnight. I am not asking you to forget 17 years of conflict. I am asking you to consider that there might be something more important than your war. Admiral Vexler was quiet for several minutes, his internal light pulsing in patterns that Jake was beginning to recognize as deep thought. Finally, the crystal being spoke. If we were to consider this proposal, what would be the timeline? Jake had been hoping for this question. I believe the transition from war to cooperation could be completed in 5 hours. Both alien delegations stared at him in shock. Commander Xylith was the first to recover. 5 hours? Impossible. It would take days just to reorganize our fleets. Not if you approach it correctly, Jake replied calmly. The key is to redirect your existing military organization toward the new goal rather than dismantling it. Ryan opened his tactical notes and began explaining. Both of your fleets are already organized for complex operations. All you need to do is change the target of those operations from each other to the ancient sites. Dr. Wang handled the diplomatic framework. We can establish joint command structures using your existing communication networks. Your officers already know how to coordinate large-scale operations. Jake stood up again and began outlining his plan. Phase 1 begins immediately. Both fleets maintain current positions but redirect all sensors toward the ancient sites. This gives everyone time to process the new information while maintaining military discipline. Phase 2 starts in 1 hour, Ryan continued. Begin reorganizing. Fleet formations from battle groups to exploration groups. Kethver and Zephyrian ships work in mixed teams, with each team assigned to investigate a specific ancient site. Phase 3 is diplomatic, Dr. Wang added. Establish joint communication, protocols, and command structures. Your existing military hierarchy can be adapted to include representatives from both species. Jake looked at his watch. Phase 4 begins in 3 hours. Advance teams from both civilizations board joint vessels and begin preliminary investigations. Of the nearest ancient site and Phase 5? Admiral Vexler asked. Jake smiled. Phase 5 is the formal end of the war. 5 hours from now, both of your civilizations announce to your people that the conflict is over and a new age of exploration has begun. The conference room was silent as the alien representatives considered this timeline. It seemed impossible. But Jake could see them beginning to think through the practical details. Commander Xylith spoke first. The proposal has merit, but our people will need time to accept such a dramatic change. That is why we announce it as a victory for both sides, Jake replied. Your people get access to ancient technology that will advance your civilizations. By centuries, both species win. Admiral Vexler's crystal body flickered with what Jake was learning to recognize as excitement. And the technology is valuable enough to justify ending the war? The technology is valuable enough to make the war seem insignificant, Ryan assured him. Dr. Wang pulled up more sensor data. The energy readings from just one of these ancient sites exceed the total power output of both your homeworlds combined. Jake looked around the table one more time. The choice is yours. You can continue fighting a war that benefits no one, and costs everything, or you can work together to unlock secrets that could transform the galaxy. The alien representatives looked at each other across the table. For 17 years, they had seen only enemies. Now, for the first time, they were beginning to see potential partners. Admiral Vexler spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. If we agree to this plan, there will be no return to the old ways. The war will truly be over. Commander Xyleth nodded. And if the ancient technology proves to be as valuable as your sensors suggest, both our civilizations will be forever changed. Jake Morrison, captain of humanity's first interstellar vessel, looked at the representatives of two alien civilizations and made the most important statement in human history. Then let us change the galaxy together. The war ends now. The future begins in 5 hours. Both alien delegations stood up simultaneously, and for the first time in 17 years, Kethver and Zephyrian representatives shook hands in agreement. The timer started ticking. 5 hours to peace.